If this is what the conservative movement has become, then count me out. All over the internet today, a frenzy of brutal attacks, none of them serious or substantive for the most part, against Gingrich. I am not a special pleader for Gingrich. Newt Gingrich and I are not friends. We're not even acquaintances. But I'm going to tell you something. Newt Gingrich was the former Republican Speaker of the House, the first Republican Speaker of the House in almost half a century. And he was fighting the Democrats and to win the House of Representatives before most of the people writing on the internet about him and trashing him and going with talking points from other campaigns were old enough to wipe themselves. He was fighting to take the House back from the left-wing Democrats who were destroying this country before most of the commentators on TV switched from Democrat to Republican, as well as the lady who now writes for the Washington Compost and claims to represent we, the conservatives. We can certainly criticize Newt Gingrich, but do not count me among those who are going to destroy the man. I saw that attempt already by the hard left Democrats, led by David Bonnier. Google his name. I was appalled when the 2-year governor of New Jersey, who has done absolutely zero for the conservative movement, zero to take over the House or the Senate, zero during the Reagan era, nothing, gets on TV and regurgitates all the ethics bullcrap that was thrown at Newt Gingrich when he was the Speaker of the House, who was targeted for destruction because he defeated the Democrats and took over the House and was a leader of the conservative movement. And what was Mitt Romney doing when Gingrich was fighting the Democrats, taking over the House, and then confronting Clinton? He was running against Ted Kennedy as a self-identified progressive who wanted to be independent from the Reagan years. And I'm supposed to sit here, read all this crap on the internet, listen to purported Reaganites and others tell me that he didn't do these things? I was there. I lived it. I saw it. Or let me put it this way. Newt Gingrich, if he does nothing else, did more for the conservative movement and to stop the liberal Democrats in the House of Representatives than virtually everybody today who's criticizing him. Bob Dole comes out today, trashes Gingrich. Of course he does. Bob Dole was part of the problem. I mean, come on. You can disagree with the man on substance, challenge his positions. That's what a primary is about. But don't turn him into some Marxist, Reagan-hating mental case, because he's not. Because he's not, and he never was. I make no excuses for his personal life, which was a mess, and which eventually caused his undoing. But he's found his faith now. He has found God now. There is no evidence to the contrary. So what are we supposed to do? But why would we act like Marxist leftists ourselves, like a bunch of frenzied nut jobs, trying to turn this man into something he's not and never was? We would not have taken back the House of Representatives but for Newt Gingrich. All the hangers-on now coming out of the woods. Oh, he was a horrible speaker. Oh, we couldn't work with him. Oh, they're doing Romney commercials. Oh, woe is me. What the hell did they do to take back the House of Representatives? Jim Talent wasn't even a backbencher to a backbencher. They didn't mind being in the majority in the House for all those years, but they didn't have a damn thing to do with it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if we are to reverse course, we have to defeat the establishment. We have no choice. That's why we call them the establishment. They are dug in. They are dug in. They have built a moat around themselves. And that's true. Already we have Norm Coleman. I played the audio. I talked about it 48 hours ago. A Romney advisor telling us that we're not going to repeal Obamacare. We'll repeal big chunks of it, but we just won't repeal it. I told you here 2 months ago, Romney will never repeal Obamacare. You want to know why? It's not in him. Do you have any evidence whatsoever? Now I'm talking substance. Do you have any evidence whatsoever to demonstrate that Romney is a fighter like that? None. And yet I have evidence to show you that Newt Gingrich is. And I've also told you if I were voting, I'd be voting for Santorum. But there is a point at which, ladies and gentlemen, where I've got to speak up about this. I'm not a mere observer. I was there. I'm not shooting spitballs from the sidelines, excited about all the talking points that are being leaked to me, the opposition research. And by the way, that's not to say that there aren't solid conservatives out there who are my friends who disagree with me. But the bulk of what's going on today has nothing to do with them. Nothing. Oh, he said he took a deposition during his divorce, but he didn't. You know, there's many, many ways you conduct discovery in litigation. Maybe it wasn't a deposition. Maybe it was some other form of discovery. And maybe he confused them. So what? So what? There are other ways to conduct discovery, and I guarantee you, he was in the middle of an acrimonious divorce. Discovery was conducted. Perhaps not depositions. Big deal. He says he wants to put a colony on the moon. Can I ask you a question? What's so crazy about that? Now, you may disagree with him financially and say we can't afford to do it. Fair enough. But why is that a nutso idea? What is it? Only a Kennedy can propose going to the moon and back? So what's going on here? I'll tell you what's going on here. There's an effort to clear the path right now for Romney. I guarantee you if Santorum was considered a threat, they'd be pulling out quotes from him and twisting them and turning him into a pretzel too. If they thought Ron Paul was a threat, putting aside my own animus toward his foreign policy and some of his backers, put that aside. They'd be turning him into a pretzel too. Romney pulled the same thing with Fred Thompson. He pulled the same thing with Rudy Giuliani. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are conservatives, if you are Tea Party activists, you've got to step back and say, what the hell is going on here? All these commercials aimed at destroying opponents. Not at communicating facts, not at advancing our principles, not focused on Obama, who's the problem, but turning people into monsters. Now here's the audio today that everybody's saying, Newt Gingrich trashed Ronald Reagan. I listened to this audio. Newt Gingrich did not trash Ronald Reagan. He was talking about going forward, we need a tactical change from the Reagan era. Not changes in principle. Not that we shouldn't promote Reagan. Not that we shouldn't stand on his shoulders. But that we need a tactical change. Here's what he said from his own mouth on C-SPAN, April 11th, 1988, in complete context. Cut one, go.
Congressman Newt Gingrich, can the vice president run on the issues that provided such successes to President Reagan?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that the years of 1980, 1984 are the past, and the American people are people peculiarly addicted to the future. If George Bush runs as a continuation of Reaganism, I think he'll lose, because I think on Election Day, the American people, given a choice between more of 8 years or something new, will vote for something new. The country's changed. And I think Bill Green put his finger on it. You've got a country in which we've gotten away from the Carter disaster, the Carter malaise, the Carter weakness. But now what? Let me say two things. First, the platform philosophically in a broad way should be broadly a center-right platform. The Reaganism, after all, is a value system which carried 49 states last time. Fairly inclusive, I would suggest. And more than just a personality issue, as the Vice President proved in his commitment to no tax increase, which was, I think, a decisive issue for him in New Hampshire. Second, the country wants to know on the most important single social issue of the next few years, which I think is the issue of cocaine and heroin and crime. What are you going to do to win? We can't run as a party that says, look at our 8 years, we've been very successful on the number one social issue of our time, because the truth is America's losing the war on drugs. The Vice President can run saying, I have seen from the inside how difficult this is going to be. Let me share with you where I'll take you. And I think if he has a springboard into the 90s, George Bush wins. If he's in an effort to continue the 80s, I think he loses.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's not saying get rid of the principles. He even says the broad values in the platform are values that apply today. He's talking about tactics. He's talking about what in that particular time, and I don't remember April 1988 what the big issue was. Apparently drugs was among them. Good. So what? So what? When put in full context, it's not as awful as all the chest pounding today, is it? Meanwhile, that's 1988. And when we come back, I want you to hear Mitt Romney 6 years later.
Mark Levin.